Welcome to the Nazareth College Centennial Podcast. I'm your host, Timothy Nealand, and in each episode I'll be guiding you through stories of amazing alumni, fascinating faculty, or the hidden history of the college. Today's episode, Origins.
The wisdom, the foresight of these women, the founders, the Sisters of St. Joseph, were a remarkable group of women.
Origins. Every Marvel and DC superhero has an origin story that tells us how they came to acquire their unusual powers. This episode of the Centennial Podcast on the origins of Nazareth College explains how a handful of women in the 1920s was able to combine their desire for academic excellence and social justice to create the extraordinary college we call our own. My search for the origin of Nazareth College took me to Kathy Urbanek, the Sisters of St. Joseph archivist.
Well, one myth that is sort of floats out there and comes up from time to time is that the sisters had only 3 months, that the bishop gave them only 3 months to open a college. That isn't really true. That part of it is kind of interesting to me. In documents we have here in the archives, we have the minutes of the SSJ Council, which is the Reverend Mother and her team. There's a note that says in August 1923, the bishop informed them that he wanted a college for women opened in September 1924. So they knew a year ahead of time. And they wrote to the New York State Board of Regents in March of 1924 asking for a charter for the school, and that was granted in May. Then in June 1924, at the commencement exercises for Nazareth Academy, Bishop Hickey announced publicly for the first time that there was going to be a college for women run by the Sisters of St. Joseph, opening in September. Given the fact that the 5 founding sisters were all on the faculty at Nazareth Academy, and they were busy through the end of June, they did in effect have about 3 months to get things up and running, but they did know about it a year ahead. So there would have been some time for some preliminary kind of planning.
My quest to know about the origins of Nazareth College also took me to the college archives, which are located in the library. There, I talked with Debbie Genitus, the college archivist.
The history of the college on the library archives website, and the origins is a very small paragraph. Oh, that's it. It started, and when you really look at it, it's much more complicated because originally the Sisters of St. Joseph have been teaching in Rochester, say at that point maybe for 75 years or something, and the bishop at the Hickey pretty much ordered them to found a college for the Catholic women. He said, all right, ladies, you're good at teaching, go to it. And he charged them with founding a college. But pretty much that was about it. He didn't say, here's a lot of money to do so. So it was really up to them to use their ingenuity and their skills and their knowledge about teaching young people to start the college. Of course, at that time, they were on Lake Avenue and they had the Nazareth School there. So they purchased at the time what became known as the Glass House. It had been a home that was built for a former congressman. So it was a big home from the 1890s or 80s and had enough room for all of them. The website says they started off with newly minted PhDs, but from what I gathered, they weren't all newly minted PhDs at that point. They were given a charge to do, and they did it, but with not a lot of outside help. So when you look back at the origins of it, I mean, it really was quite a feat.
Founders of Nazareth College had impressive resumes.
They were all very accomplished women. After they were assigned to the college, they all went on to get advanced degrees. They all got their doctorates. Now, the first dean was Sister Teresa Marie O'Connor. She was a tiny woman, very small, but mighty, I guess you would say. She was very, very loved by the early classes. The first dean, she was also the original librarian, and she was a professor of English, Greek, and history. Her background is that she received a Bachelor of Arts from Catholic University in 1921 and a Master of Arts from Canisius College in 22. So she had those degrees when she was assigned to the college. She went on after that to get her doctorate at Fordham. There's a quote often associated with her, and I think it's on the plaque in O'Connor Hall. This was her philosophy that she shared with her students. Keep the preeminence. Reign over yourself. Do fully what you do. Be entirely what you are. Which is quite, I think, quite forward thinking for the time, to encourage women to have their own identities and make their own way in the world.
And they were also beloved teachers who left a lasting impression on their students.
Here's a little story on, this was a remembrance by one of the early alums. One person who perhaps best embodied the spirit of the founding educators was the school's highest ranking administrator, the dean, Sister Teresa Marie. She taught English and Greek and had an infectious love for learning. Recall that Sister Teresa Marie's excitement the day some packages of books arrived from overseas, volumes she had ordered for the Nazareth Library during her recent term at Oxford University. She was down on her hands and knees unpacking books. "Oh, look at this, Helen," she told me. Helen joined Sister on the floor to watch as she pried open a wooden shipping carton and pulled out the college's new copy of the Oxford English Dictionary. As Sister thumbed through the pages of the new treasure, she solemnly told the young student, "Now you must remember in your spare time to come here and look at this." The graduates also remember Sister Teresa Marie for the homey touches she brought to campus, particularly her flower garden and her dog, usually stretched out on the floor of the lecture hall. She had a motherly care for the students and a strong belief that hot cocoa would cure all the ills of the world. On cold winter days when the students returned home from gym classes at a boys' school a few blocks away, probably Aquinas, I guess, Sister would be waiting with hot cocoa and cookies.
From the beginning, Nazareth College has featured rigorous academic preparation for students' life's work. The curriculum featured what today we would call the high-impact practices of experiential and service learning, as well as college retreats and athletics.
Teresa Marie never believed in confining learning to books. She brought in noted speakers on philosophy, literature, and religion. She urged the young women to go out into the community and volunteer their time to the needy. As Sister's urging, the students sewed clothes for infants, hosted Christmas parties for troubled youth, and spent time at the local settlement houses. Now that was an interesting thing. There was this Charles Settlement House that apparently students from Nazareth would volunteer at the Charles Settlement House for a long time. I'm not sure how long that they did, but apparently for years, for decades. We had a long tradition of going there. So even in the 20s, they were going to the Charles Settlement House.
Yeah, from the beginning, the students at the college were encouraged to do volunteer work in the community, and one place where they went was the Charles Settlement House, which would have been providing services to immigrants at that time. I think in that part of the city, Italian immigrants primarily. They also worked at the Merrimack and Genesee settlement houses, and that was from the very first year. The sisters went with them also for some of that activity. And Mother Rose Miriam Smith organized students to go to, there was a location, a center on Rome Street, which is near downtown, for a small group of Black African-American Catholics who were living in the city then. And the sisters and some of the students went there on Sundays to do religious instruction. Mother Rose Miriam was interested from the very beginning in outreach to the African-American community, and she is the one who spearheaded the organization of the Sisters Mission in Selma, Alabama in 1940. So this was for her an emphasis.
Kathy continues to tell us more about the early founders.
Mother Rose Miriam and the Reverend Mother of the congregation. So in that role, she became president of the college. But when she was assigned in 1924 to help open the college, she was Sister Rose Miriam. She was a Renaissance woman, very, very accomplished scientist. Chemistry was her field. She was chair of the chemistry department, organized that department. She also taught Latin and mathematics. She received a Bachelor of Arts from St. Elizabeth's College in New Jersey in 1910 before she entered the Sisters, and a Master of Arts from Canisius in 1922. Her doctorate is from Fordham, and she received that in 1926. She was really a giant in the congregation, and I think a giant in the history of the college as well. When she died, Bishop Carney had this to say: "She came to Nazareth College in its infancy. Very soon she learned its possibilities and was conscious of the great contribution it could make, not only to the church, but to this community." And that has proven quite true. Sister Agnes Patricia Breen, original chair of the French department and a professor of French. One thing she said about Nazareth is this: "There wasn't much money in the early days. However, the tradition of academic excellence was begun early, and there never was any scrimping on academic preparation of the faculty." Then there was Sister Raphael Lyons, professor of Latin and chair of the classics department. Louise Weber, she said of Sister Raphael, "She was witty and often joked in Latin, but she wasn't just an intellectual, she was well loved by students and alumni." Then we have Sister Rosemarie Carroll, professor and chair of the English department. She was also the registrar. And it's said of her, in the early days, she would see a girl on campus and she would know exactly what class she was supposed to be in and whether she was there or not, because she did all the scheduling. Her philosophy was, "They who do and teach are great in the kingdom of heaven, and the doers are also great upon earth. Saintliness means being not merely good, but being eminently good for something."
That Nazareth College is in Pittsford is a testament to the patience, fortitude, and foresight of the founders. It was not inevitable in the early days and at times seemed quite impossible. The college was located first in the Glass House, a mansion built in 1860.
When the sisters knew they were to open the college, they needed a location. They originally purchased a large house on Fairview Heights, which is behind Nazareth Academy, but it proved to be not adequate. So they looked around again, and available for purchase was a large mansion on the front of the Nazareth Academy property. It had been the home of Louis Seeley, built for him in 1870. Louis Seeley was the Monroe County treasurer, also the owner of a local newspaper, the Rochester Daily Chronicle, which was a predecessor of the D&C, and he was also U.S. representative to Congress from New York State. So this was his home, his mansion. The sisters purchased this from Irving Rouse, owner of a nursery in Rochester called the Lakeview Nursery. The home was a mansion, 16 rooms, Queen Anne style, very elegant. It had wonderful, well, we have good pictures of the exterior. It had wonderful exterior architectural details, gargoyles and gables, and a lot of decorative ornamentation, a beautiful slate roof, and it had a broad veranda porch that went around three sides of the house, all enclosed in glass, which is where it came by its nickname, the Glass House. Inside, it had beautiful woodwork. All the rooms were furnished with oak, mahogany, sycamore, and cherry. There was what sounds like a very elaborate bathroom with Mexican onyx appointments. So the house is a story in itself, and it's a shame there are no photos that I'm aware of the interior of the house. But anyway, the sisters were able to purchase it. The original price was $61,500. The bishop said no, that was too much. So somehow, I don't know how the negotiating was done, but they were able to get the price down to $55,500. And they purchased it for that in August 1924. Now, mind you, that's just a month before the college opened. So they had a lot of work to do to get it ready. Rooms had to be converted into classrooms, a lecture hall, a library, study hall, offices, and there was a chapel on the third floor. The sisters took loans from 3 banks to finance the purchase of the house, and the purchase included the house, a large carriage house, and 300 feet of frontage on Lake Avenue. So that was the original home. for Nazareth College when the 25 original students reported in September 24th, 1924.
After quickly outgrowing this facility and thwarted in their plans to move to a new location in Pittsford, the college took over the old Mother House on Augustine Street.
Sisters had in mind from the 1920s that the college would be located in Pittsford. They had purchased land in 1913 for their new Mother House, which was not built till 1927, but they thought all along that the college would be there as well. Now, when they moved in 1928 to the new Mother House, they hoped that they would relocate the college to one wing of the Mother House building. But the State Department of Education did not approve of that. They didn't want a college in the same building with a normal school. And the sisters had their teacher preparation 2-year normal school there, which is why in 1928, the college had to go to Augustine Street, which was the former Mother House building. That was a temporary arrangement. So then the sisters thought, well, we have plenty of land, we'll build college buildings next to the Mother House. That plan was scuttled by Bishop Edward Mooney, who did not want a college for young women next to a novitiate for young women. I guess he didn't want the novices to see the carefree life the college students were living and perhaps not finish their program. So the sisters couldn't do that. This was in 1936, I think. They purchased another piece of land in Pittsford. It's the Sutherland property where it's now belongs to the school district. It was the estate of Henry Lamb, one of the members of the famous Lamb of Bausch and Lamb family fame, bought that property, which had a huge mansion like the Glass House and a lot of land, I think about 70 acres there. They were prepared to have to open the college there, but then Bishop Mooney was transferred to be Archbishop elsewhere, and Bishop Carney came to Rochester, and he had no problem with the college being next to the Mother House, so that plan was able to move forward. And so finally, in 42, the new campus was able to open.
The Nazareth College archives contains many letters from Teresa Marie, the dean of the college, and her struggle to find money to help fund an endowment, have professional development for the faculty, and to help the facilities, particularly to add books to the library in order for Nazareth to get accreditation.
I found this letter that the Teresa Marie, who was the dean at the time in 1928, they knew in order to build up that they would have to have an endowment, because at the moment their endowment really consisted of the sisters and their skills and their knowledge. They wrote letters. She wrote letters to various businessmen asking if they would be happy to contribute to an endowment. A couple of letters I have here say no. Sorry, we can't do that. All right, this letter was May 10th, 1928, and the dean writes, "We are about to begin a new phase of our college work, as we expect to transfer the college to our new building near Pittsford next September." Of course, that didn't happen. "We expect to expand the work, opening the departments and employing more professors. In short, we are making every effort so to build up this new institution. In order that it may come to take rank among the best, much must be done beyond the creditable things thus far accomplished. The work has been carried on for 4 years without a deficit, but next year we wish to send 3 sister teachers away to complete their work for the higher degrees. In withdrawing these, we must hire professors to take their places at about $2,500 a year. And this for 2 years. We are at present employing 3 laymen and 1 woman beside the priests and sisters. The 3 priests are also paid a salary. This is only one item of our overhead. Our community, the Sisters of St. Joseph, is bearing the burden of debt on the new building. In order to be rated among the colleges of the first rank, an institution is required to have a producing endowment of $500,000. This is just a glimpse of what this new institution, the Catholic College for Women in Rochester, means. I am soliciting the interest of a few of our prominent Catholic men of Rochester, that if they can see their way to it, they might come to the aid of this new and important work in the educational field in Rochester, in which the Sisters of St. Joseph for nearly 75 years have proved themselves worthy of the active interest of the people of Rochester. The help we solicit may be given in the form of a donation to the endowment fund, the establishment of a professorship or a scholarship, to the library, or to the science labs. May I ask you to consider my appeal and let me hear from you. I should be glad of a personal conference. And that was Teresa Marie, Dean. It was 2 years later. They're trying to get credit. They're trying to get accreditation. Middle State is requiring a certain standard for the library. And of course, being a librarian, this, hits me. It says the present library is short about 1,000 volumes of the necessary 8,000 volumes to qualify for the requirements as laid down by the Regional Association. They need to raise a total of $2,000 to purchase the necessary 1,000 volumes to complete the standardized library. They sent out a letter for donations to a library fund, and they want everybody to contribute $10. But I have a list of 86 people, 86 contributors, men and women, so they were able to raise $860 for this one drive.
When speaking of the founders of Nazareth College, we of course mean not just the Sisters of St. Joseph, but those students who were the early participants in the life of the college and molded it to suit their own needs.
Well, the first class was quite amazing. It consisted of 25 students. Most were graduates of Nazareth Academy, but they came with quite an academic pedigree. 12 of that group of 25 had been awarded scholarships from the State Department of Education. The award was $100 a year for 4 years. So given that tuition was $200, that was half tuition being paid by the state. And those 12 awards to Nazareth women were half of the state scholarships earned by students in Rochester that year. So this was quite a premier group. 2 of the highest ratings on the state exam were held by those women. So they came in kind of charging, they were ready for this college experience. And the early issues of the Gleaner are informative because these women were writing about how they saw their education and the value of it and what they wanted to get out of it. And they clearly were immersed in their times. Women had just been granted the right to vote, and new opportunities were opening for women in society, and they were well aware of this and wanting to take advantage of these opportunities. One editorial in the Gleaner in 1926 had this to say: "How best can college women become fine citizens? By taking advantage of all the opportunities presented to them to improve their minds and to fit themselves for their places in the world, a world which is going to be influenced mightily by the women who have had the chance for intellectual and moral culture in the atmosphere of a college with sound ideals." An editorial in May 1926. "In the 20th century, one of the most absorbing problems of the scientific, pedagogical, religious, and literary circles is woman, her place in life, her influence, her power for good, and her example to mankind. When she cast off the shackles that bound her exclusively to home life, when she defied conventions by entering the political and business centers, she was accused of stepping from the pedestal. What answers yea or nay to this accusation is not the changed status of woman, but the use she makes of her new position."
The class of 28, they were very anxious to be identified as college girls, as opposed to the high school girls next door at Nazareth Academy when they were still there on Lake Avenue. So they wanted to establish their own traditions. The dean had brought home from Oxford the idea of the English custom of the maypole dance. And that's where the maypole tradition started here. It was intended to be a ceremonious event. They would practice for days ahead of time. But when the day arrived and they were all dolled up for it and ready to go, then of course they all got crisscrossed with the ribbons, and they were just then typical college kids, and they had a good time. But this was the class that since they were the first graduates, they also established the alumni organization. So we don't think about that. They were also the group of girls who established the Gleaner. They established the literary magazine, Verity Fair. At this point, they were trying to build their own traditions, establish their identity as Nazareth College students. They chose the class ring, the school colors, published a school newspaper.
As we close out this special podcast on the origins of Nazareth College, we're going to turn to a reminiscence written in 1976 by a member of the first class of Nazareth College, Marcella Reichenberg-Ennis, who remembered the struggles of the first generation, but how it made them stronger.
Marcella Reichenberger-Ennis was quite a writer, wrote letters to the editor of the Democrat Chronicle often, and times she would talk about her experience at Nazareth. In 1976, she wrote a piece that they printed. She pointed out the challenges that they had to face as their first class. She says, conceived at a most inopportune time, the eve of the Depression, Nazareth was brought into being by a handful of nuns. In a material sense, they had nothing going for them. Few funds, no building except a private residence, no support from community or press, and scant recognition even from fellow Catholics. But these nuns did possess superior academic backgrounds and a strong sense of dedication and personal sacrifice. For the students of those early days, the handicaps of attending a fledgling college didn't end on graduation. They emerged into a world not only of general unemployment, but of special antipathy towards graduates of a new and Catholic institution. As the then superintendent of Rochester schools told us bluntly when we applied for jobs, Nazareth graduates don't bother. That we overcame our supposed handicap is a tribute to the nuns who steered us to face and conquer life's drawbacks. It wasn't money or men, comfort or community support that really made Nazareth. Against all odds, it prospered because of the sheer guts, the intelligence and competence, and trust in divine providence of women who were truly liberated. Whoa!
I hope you've enjoyed this origin story of Nazareth College, which has revealed how this institution has continually reinvented itself to meet and overcome the challenges of the time. Just as we, the heirs of that legacy, are today working to strengthen Nazareth College and to overcome the difficulties created by COVID-19. Our thanks to Cameron Perez for her research, to Debbie Genitus and Kathy Urbanik for speaking to us. My thanks to the British National Archives for supplying us with music from the 1920s. And of course, thanks to you, the listener. If you like what you hear, let us know. You can email us at publichistory@naz.edu or call us at 585-389-2649.